From the great outdoors of Alabama comes the Bama Backroads podcast. Well, welcome into another episode of Bama Backroads podcast. We're on the road again today out of studio. We're down here in Anniston, Alabama at the office of one Jeff Daniel, Alpha Agent Extraordinaire.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Supposed to have Rusty Burroughs here. Coach Rusty Burroughs, if you're from Calhoun County, you know exactly who that is. But anybody that knows Rusty knows he's been retired for an awfully long time, and he is not on time for anything. So in the middle of this podcast, he will probably show up loud and live. So get ready for that. But before he gets here, Jeff, I want to talk to you a little bit because you're a very avid outdoorsman. If it's spring, fall, summer, you're doing something. You're in the woods, you're on the water.
Just ask my wife.
You apparently have a good wife.
Yeah, I do.
That lets you do what you do, because you have a very vivid Facebook presence with your hunting and fishing. So
there's no off season.
Yeah, you've got a pretty good wife. She allows you to do everything you do. But there is also something unique that you have in your background. Mm-hmm. And today we're going to talk a little turkey hunting, and we're going to talk about a legendary call maker, Doug Camp. Mm-hmm. I did not know how close you and Doug Camp were until we had that conversation a few weeks back. But first of all, how's your turkey season going this year?
I would call it middle of the road. At least where I live and hunt, just my little specific area, turkeys are not gobbling very well. I'm hearing, other buddies of mine who are hunting in different places are telling different stories. But at least where I live, which is, I'm not sure where you're listening from, but I live near a pretty large management area here in Alabama, Chockalaka. And on this lower end of the management area where I live, the turkeys just are not gobbling. You can go several days in a row and just not hear anything. That's sort of a joke of mine. I have always said I am not going to deer hunt turkeys. For me to kill a turkey, he's going to have to gobble hundreds of times, fly straight down, run to me. I'm not going to just go out there and sit on a ridge somewhere and call every 30 minutes and scratch in the leaves, which is how a lot of these turkeys are getting killed right now. And since they're not gobbling like their hair's on fire, I'm not going after them like mine is either. So,
well, have you seen any? Are the hens separating from the group and getting ready to lay? Or
oddly, I was thinking about that just this morning. I was seeing hens separated by themselves, feeding around the edge of thickets and stuff like that over a month ago, early March. I was seeing turkeys strutting in pastures with hens and gobbling the last several days of February. To me, it started super early this year.
Wow.
That's not normal.
Right.
But I was seeing hens already bred, nesting way back in the first couple of weeks of March. I still see a good number of them. There's one literally in my subdivision right now. Every morning she's out there in the edge of someone's yard, pecking around doing something. And she's got a nest right there behind one of those houses.
Yeah. Right. Well, my turkey season's not going too great either, so don't feel bad.
Now, I have killed 2 birds.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I've killed 2 birds.
Well, the way you're talking, you've zeroed like me.
Well, now, really, I say the turkeys are not gobbling. They started off, so the season comes in. When I was a young boy, our season came in March the 15th. And back then, that was usually perfect.
Right.
We've backed it up now. It was March the 20th. Now it's March 25th for the state at large, April the 1st even for the management area, which is really where I do most of my hunting now. But the first several days, so let's say the first 7 to 10 days of season, they were gobbling okay. Not much once they got on the ground, but they would gobble good enough. If you were close enough at daylight, you could go get on him real quick. So I did kill a turkey that very first week of the season. I did not, as much as I'd like to pat myself on the back and tell you this grand story, I did not call that turkey in. In fact, I don't know that he ever gobbled. I was going to a turkey that was gobbling. He was not far, just the first place I walked in and blew my owl hooter. A turkey gobbled about maybe 300 yards from me, gobbled 4 or 5 times, and I took out down a little road bed going to him. It was already good daylight. I was a little late getting on this turkey. And about halfway between where I thought the turkey was and where I was going, I stepped up on a little dirt mound in this fire break and was going to just try to get the turkey to gobble one more time. The woods were still pretty open at that point, and I didn't know if I could go any further or not. Well, I step up on the little dirt mound, and almost immediately I hear a turkey spitting and drumming and can hear the turkey walking. This turkey I don't see him. He's to my left, and I look very quickly like, oh my goodness, how did I get... My first thought was, this is the turkey I was going to, and he must have been close in the distance. I learned that was not the case. But I'm sitting there with my gun on my shoulder, standing up on top of this dirt mound they've pushed up with a bulldozer. Hear this turkey spitting and drumming, and I can hear him walking, and I just melted into that dirt mound, trying to get my gun off my shoulder. And by the time I got down on my knees, kind of hid myself behind that dirt mound, got my gun up, I could see the turkey. The turkey had done seen me also. He was just too stupid to get out of there fast enough.
Yeah, there you go.
I killed the turkey, and funny enough, the turkey I was going to gobbled at my shot. He had not moved. In fact, I don't even know if that turkey was out of the tree yet. But so that was the story of the first turkey. The second one, I had a buddy. I had actually done given up. This was really just 2 weeks ago. Again, the turkeys where I'm hunting, I don't know if they're done or if it's just one of those cycles that happens every so many years. They're just not gobbling. Somewhere around 2 or 3 weeks ago, they just quit. So I had pretty much quit going. I was even, texting with a group of buddies. Guys, I may put my stuff up. Y'all know me. I'm not going to deer hunt turkeys.
Right.
So a buddy of mine says, hey, man, I'm hunting this block of private land, in a county over. It's not far, 30-minute ride from me. He said, gosh, man, I'm hearing turkeys every morning. Like he said, yesterday I heard 6 turkeys gobbling good in there. But now he's a little bit of a novice hunter. Doesn't really know the ins and outs, doesn't call much or very well. So he said, well, come on, go with me in the morning. He says, I think, you know what you're doing. We can probably get in there and get on one. And so we did, and he was correct. At daylight, we blow that owl hooter, and turkeys blew our hats off. They were left and right in front of us, behind us. One turkey that was right out in front of us, pretty close. We go in there, get set up on him. We might have got too close to this turkey. As crazy as that probably sounds. We didn't spook him, but calling a turkey to you is reverse of nature. The reason he's gobbling is he's calling the hens. You're supposed to go to him, and I think what happened is we got in there too close to him, close enough that he was waiting on us to come under him before he flew down, and we'd sat on that turkey for an hour, and he'd quit gobbling. He would gobble at a crow every 10 minutes or so, but wouldn't even answer us. I could just read this turkey's body language. He knew something was up. So now, by the way, this whole time, so we've been on this turkey for probably over an hour. And in the meantime, this turkey's 100 yards from us. And I'm telling my buddy, this turkey's still in the tree. Cause my friend was kind of leaning over looking at me, and he said, the turkey's not moving. He's not coming. And I said, that turkey's still in the tree. We're kind of whispering to each other. And in the meantime, about 300 yards, maybe slightly further than that, past him, there's been 2 turkeys since dark. I mean, like it was way early. And these 2 turkeys, I don't know how they didn't die. I don't know what they were gobbling at. Air. They must have gobbled 200 or 300 times apiece. They had not gone 2 minutes all morning without both of them gobbling, double gobbling, triple gobbling. And 2 or 3 times I'd done said, hey, if this fool we're sitting on don't hurry up, we need to back out, go around him, and go to those turkeys before they stop. So, because we both, now this is in the week, we both work.
Right.
We don't have all morning. We need to either crap or get off the pot.
Right.
So again, at about 7 o'clock, I kind of leaned over and I said, hey, let's roll back off this tree, crawl off the side of this hill, see if we can get around this turkey without blowing him out, because we can come back to him another day if we don't educate him. Let's go to them turkeys now. So we did. We get around him, and by all accounts, I can't tell that we ever spooked him. He never gobbled again, but I never heard him blow out of there. We go down there and get on this bird. These 2 turkeys that were gobbling pretty quickly realized, they're across a creek. So I told my friend, I said, hey, we got a choice. Me and you got 30 minutes, and we got a 30-minute walk out of here. So we can either just back off, live to fight another day, but I know turkeys. You'll come back tomorrow and never hear them 2 again. They'll just be gone. These are national forest turkeys. These turkeys were not on that private land. They were across the line on national forest. I said, so if you're going to be a bear, let's be a grizzly. We're just going to take a chance, barrel off side of this ridge, go down there and get on the other side of that little creek with them. And if we don't spook them, we're going to kill them turkeys quick. We went off side of that hill, and the whole time they burnt the woods up. They gobbled 20 or 30 times in about 5 minutes that it took us. I think they were hearing us walking.
Wow.
Got down there, jumped across that little old creek real quick, and we didn't hear them turkeys for a minute. And I thought, oh, crap. Did they see us when we got down here in this bottom? We're standing there, and I'm looking back at my buddy, and I could tell by his facial expression he was thinking the same thing. Man, we've fooled around and spooked these turkeys. Now remember, the whole point of me being there was we're trying to let him kill one of these turkeys. I done killed one.
I'm starting to get that in the story, because I already know how it ends, and I'm
yeah. So I know where I think the turkeys were the last time they gobbled, which had only been 2 minutes ago. And there was just this tiny little finger ridge. Right out in front of us, about 50 yards. And I knew we can't get on top of that ridge. We can't go left or right around it, and we can't top it. Them turkeys are right yonder. So there's a big old white oak tree just before you were to crest this little old knob. And I told my buddy, I said, hey, here's the deal. Take your vest off. This is about to be a crawling kill. So I said, if we can, let's take our vest off real quick. Let's ease, kind of just keep low, duck walk, whatever you need to do. Let's see if we can crawl up behind that tree. If we can get there and not spook them, I said, I bet if we call one time, they're going to run all over us. And he said, all right, go ahead. I'm going to fall behind you. That was his fatal mistake. I should have let him crawl in front of me.
Jeff, the man has never killed a turkey. Come on, man.
So we ease up there, and I'm about 7 or 8 feet probably in front of him. And I get crawled up behind that tree, and I'm turning my head just to look back and see where he is, and I hear the turkeys walking. And about that time, one of them gobbled, and the other one gobbled. And if you're a turkey hunter, you know what I mean. When they're that close, you can hear them shake. I mean, it's like you hear their body shake when they gobble. These turkeys were 30 steps from us. So I look back at him real quick, and I already had my gun in my hands, and I clicked the safety off, and all I did was sit on my knees and put my gun up and lean around that tree, and both of them were standing there. Of course, bow, I shoot and kill that turkey. Well, the crazy thing was the other one stood there for a second. And I'm telling my buddy, I'm keeping my eyes on him, but I'm kind of saying it out of the corner of my mouth, shoot him, shoot the other turkey, shoot him, shoot him. He couldn't see. He was just enough behind me that the roll of the land he couldn't see. Well, of course, that turkey spooks and is gone.
It's
But
gone.
that was a weird situation where I was tickled. Just tickled silly. I just killed a turkey, but on the other hand, dang, I feel guilty as crap. So,
Look, a couple of weeks ago, me and my buddy went over in Cherokee County, and same situation. I've never killed one. Our game plan was, hey, I'm gonna get you a turkey today. I'm gonna call for you, and we'll set up, and we'll try to get one to come by you, and I'll sit back here and call. So we're sitting there, and we sat there a couple of hours and saw a couple of jakes, saw some hens, and then it got real quiet. And then all of a sudden, kablooey! He shot like 30 yards behind me. If my heart was not in a good condition, I probably would never made it out of the woods. Because I probably jumped 3 feet out of my chair. So some 2 hens and a gobbler snuck in behind me. And instead of him letting them come to the field, he just blows the head off that gobbler there. And I said, man, you kind of cut me off there, didn't you? He goes, no, man, you would never even seen those. They were going to a different field. I was like, you're so full of crap.
Real turkey hunting, though, is so different than the stuff you see on television. You don't really have time to make those kind of decisions. I watch these television turkey shows, and these people are hunting turkeys that, they let them move. Yeah, they can talk. They can swap places. The bear have to eat when the fish are running, and it's now.
Look,
I got to kill him.
Been to Kansas, okay?
Yeah.
Deer hunting. The land we were hunting on the guy didn't allow you to have a blind or a ladder stand or climb on his property. You had to be a natural barrier to get behind. Sitting in a natural blind they had made out of down trees. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden something moves to me on the left, and I look. There's 12 turkeys standing there looking inside the blind at me. And I turn and look at them, and I'm trying to, because I know Alabama turkey now, you can't move.
Right.
But I'm not, now I think, well, I'm not turkey hunting. So I move around, and I look at them. Never moved. They just stood there and looked at me, pecked around and ate. Never moved. And I'm thinking, God almighty. In Alabama, these birds be gone. So is it a different bird? I know it's probably a different bird, but which I've
hunted out of state deer and turkeys, and both of them act differently. Deer hunting, people love to go to the Midwest, Illinois, all of those places.
But is that why? Because they're not as spooked there as they are here.
I don't know what it is, but you can get away with so much more there. They don't walk around looking up in trees.
Like the does do here?
Like the does do.
Yeah.
They are easier to kill. I'm probably just offended everybody listening.
Well, we just had our third guest come in. He's late as usual. Hold on while we get him set up, get his microphone turned on. We're going to pause just for a second. Rusty Burroughs, welcome in. Good to see you. Late as usual.
Well, glad to be here. I just, so much going on, not enough time to get it done.
I hear you. You are a popular man.
No, I had to go by the bank and had to, and I didn't put any in. I was having to try to get some out. I got to pay the bills.
Well, you got to put it in to get it out.
Well, I know. Alpha kills me. I have to pay a lot. My agent is filthy rich because of me.
And that's one reason we're doing the show in Alpha's building.
That's why I said that.
It is because this is how we're getting some money back out. We're kind of leasing for free this space today.
I understand.
But Rusty, I do want to get talk fishing with you in just a minute. But first, I want to talk to Jeff about Doug Camp. Mm-hmm. Now, legend in this area of Alabama, if you're older than 30, wouldn't you say 30 or 40?
Yeah, I met Doug back in the '80s, but I was a young boy. I was a teenager in the late '80s, very very early '90s, and that was sort of the heydays of when I was running in his circles.
If you're, your age, you know Doug Camp here from Alabama.
Yeah, I'm 49. So,
yeah. But Doug Camp, legendary call maker, probably. I mean, is it too much to say one of the best call makers ever?
Probably so. We did not realize the celebrity that we were hanging around when we were young boys. He was just, Mr. Camp lived down the road that we turkey hunt with.
Yeah,
we had no idea.
Tell us how you got to know him.
So my best friend back in those high school days, boy's last name was Gallagher. His daddy had a woodworking shop. His daddy was actually like an ag teacher for the Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind. Very, very gifted woodmaker, that kind of stuff, and had a big, nice shop at his home. That is actually where the majority of Southland calls, when I first met Doug, he was partners with a Junior Robinson with Southland game calls. And then at a later point went out on his own, or I ain't real sure. Again, we were boys at the time, but that's the way I understood it. Just went out on his own with camp callers. But since they were pretty much all built, as far as I know, in Mr. Gallagher's shop, we all hung around there. I mean, every day that's where we'd go after school. We'd go in there. We literally built his calls. We didn't know we were building, what would turn out to be collectibles, famous calls for a famous call maker. We just in there getting dusty, having a good time, making our own calls, really. Yeah,
that's awesome. What kind of guy was he? Is he an approachable kind of guy?
Super. To me, he was meek and mild, very, very friendly. I'll tell a story about him in a minute, and that'll emphasize this point. I never saw him angry, never really even saw him emotional. He was, again, super mellow, polite, just mild speaking.
Jeff's describing me, but go ahead.
This sounds a lot like Rusty,
yeah. There's nothing meek and mild about you.
I had never heard
Rusty
him say
Burroughs.
a cuss word until this one time. I'll tell the story about in a little bit.
Okay, now Rusty, you're out.
I'm out.
No cussing, you're out.
Okay, I'm out.
Oh, but no, that's I met him through the Gallaghers, making the calls.
I got you. Well, I mean, if you got a story to tell, we want to hear it.
Yeah. So now, interestingly enough, I never in all my years, and again, I was probably 13 or 14 when I met him. He passed away from cancer when I was maybe in my mid-20s. So again, that was my real formative years.
2004, I believe.
Yeah. So I never spring turkey hunted with Doug. Now he did, obviously. I never knew Doug as a spring turkey hunter, though. Even most of our conversations were not about going out listening for gobbles, anything like that. He was passionate, and we all were at that time. We were eat up with fall turkey hunting. Fall turkey hunting today, we still have a condensed season in a select couple of counties here. But I grew up in that Talladega County area, which is really Cheehaw Mountain. Back then, the fall turkey season was basically the entirety of deer season. And honestly, and I grew up deer hunting. Just that is my thing. I've always been a deer hunter. But there was a real large window of years there, that again, those teen years, where I almost quit deer hunting because we were so involved with call making and fall turkey hunting and all those things. And that's the time I spent with Doug. And I'll share this one story again. I've told this a number of times. It's on some social media platforms, but he and I, and if you're local enough to know some of these landmarks, I'll give you some names here. There is a place on Cheehaw Mountain. It's called Horse Creek Cemetery. It's an old cemetery there. Someone actually maintains it. It's very, very small. And back in those days, the little road would wind down. I mean, it was a little mud hole, rutted out road. You had to have a nice truck, four-wheel drive truck to get down in there to this old place. way out at the end of a gravel Forest Service road. You hit the turnaround, turn down this little old pig trail of a road, splash some mud holes, and it would go down to a dead-end dirt mound right at the cemetery. If you parked right there and walked over that dirt mound, you'd go about another 150 yards or so off the steep little old ridge, and it would cross a creek. You could cross that creek, and there was an old road bed we were following. And when it crossed that creek, there was a couple of big ridges to your right there. That was just one of our favorite haunts for fall turkey hunting. For whatever reason, those little 2 ridges in there, I say little, they were 2 big primary ridges, always just eat up with turkeys. And back then, again, this was probably 90, 91, somewhere in that. That's how long ago this has been.
Right.
We just had so many more turkeys then than we do now. So I had been in there and hunted, and again, Doug was a retired school teacher. So now I was still in school, but me, Mr. Camp, the principal of our school at that time, we were all turkey hunters. So it was not any problem for me to turkey hunt every morning before school and come in late. I mean, honestly, I'd be 9 o'clock in the morning getting to school a lot of times, and I would park in the teacher's parking lot with my gun and all my stuff in my truck, go in there and change and just go on to school. And it was never a problem. You couldn't get away with that.
That's
now.
a different time.
Yeah. But anyway, so I had been in there that previous morning and been on these turkeys, and man, there was a wad of them. I don't know, 50 birds perhaps. It was hens and jakes and some big long beards, and I had even gone back that afternoon before and heard those turkeys fly up. So Doug and I had made a plan. We were going in the morning, and we got in there way before daylight that morning. Went in there and crossed that creek. And again, I remember Doug's an older retired man. I'd walk him silly. And when you cross that creek, you had to climb one of them big ridges in there. You get pretty winded, so it took us forever to get up there. Now, remember, it's during deer season. So we get up there and get to the little point where we was going to sit. And all we were going to do, I was far more aggressive than Doug. Again, Doug was that older generation. He was fine. I'm going to go up there. We know these turkeys are feeding around in here. At some point during the morning, they're going to come through here. And that's not me. Everything has to be, again, your hair on fire. I'm aggressive. I'm going to these turkeys. But the plan was we were going to get in there, set up real, beside each other on 2 trees, and just let it get daylight and let these turkeys fly down. That's the way we fall turkey hunting. Let them get on the ground. You might give them a few minutes to call them to you. Every once in a while that worked, but usually you had to let them turkeys get on the ground, and then you had to get up and just literally run right at them. You wanted to bust them up. You would just completely scatter that flock, and usually within just a few minutes, them turkeys would start trying to gather back, and it was just child's play. You could call, and they would. Most of them, they could be a ridge over. You'd call one time, and you'd see them pitch and fly all the way back across right to you. So that's how we were killing them. All right, so anyway, we get up on top of this ridge, and we're sitting there. And in the meantime, it was so crisp and calm that morning, you could hear a mile. And way back off to the left, I could hear the main gravel road. I could hear deer hunters. There's a bunch of dog hunters. I knew all of them. I could hear their trucks coming in, popping gravel. You could hear them part way back up, and they're just up this big creek bottom in there. I don't know how, they were a long ways from it, but just you could hear it. You could even from that distance, you could hear murmured voices. I remember hearing somebody laughing, and these people might be half a mile or more from us back through the woods. But anyway, so it's getting daylight. We're starting to hear these turkeys. They're starting to cluck around up in there. Some hens are tree calling. I'm also hearing dogs barking. These dogs are still in the boxes. Well, it gets daylight enough now. I hear them turn them dogs loose. Now, a lot of folks did not know this, but if you knew Mr. Camp, you knew he was basically deaf in one ear. In fact, a lot of the times he could hear what you were hearing, but his directional hearing was off. say a turkey might gobble or yelp or whatever it might be, and it's right straight out in front of us. Well, he would point another direction and look at you like, is that where that come from? It's like, no, it's over here, So I don't think, in hindsight, Mr. Camp was ever hearing these dog hunters. So I heard them dogs turn loose, and they were just cold trailing. And about that time, way back up this creek bottom, I heard them strike. And they were burning something up, and they were coming our way. Now, I'm a deer hunter. So I'm sitting there with my turkey gun, and normally I would always keep a buckshot or two. This morning I did not. All I had is a 12 gauge 3-inch with number 6s in it. So, and them dogs are coming, and they're coming fast. And this is, I'm telling this story like it's happening over a period of time, and this is all happening in about 3 or 4 minutes. So I can actually hear deer coming off the ridge. Now they're 300 yards in behind me, but they're coming off a big ridge, and they're going to come down and probably cross that creek. And I'm looking over at Mr. Camp, who is about 10 feet to my right. And he's sitting his bad ear is facing me. So I hear these deer coming, and I'm looking at him, and I'm looking back over to where these deer are coming from, and I'm looking at him, and he has no clue what's fixing to happen. And the turkeys are getting chatty. They're just, it's getting good daylight. Turkeys are starting to really, they're cutting back and forth up there in the trees. They're close to fly down. In the meantime, boosh, splash, I hear these deer hit the creek, and here they come. They're coming up a little old finger, and they're going to blacktop us. They're coming right at us. Well, I've gone ahead and kind of rolled over on my hip facing that way, and I got my gun up on my shoulder just in case. You never know. It's more than likely it's going to be a wad of does. Who knows? Right. Well, the first deer tops the hill, and it is a good one. A big rack deer. And this is crazy. When he tops the hill, he's 20 steps from me, just at a fast gallop. They're not just low down scalding it running, but he's getting it pretty good. He never saw me. I already had the gun up. I hear the deer topping the hill, and as soon as he tops the hill, I see it's a big buck, and bow, I shoot. And it looked like you fluffed a pillow full of deer hair. So, and this deer hits the ground. It just completely folds his front legs under him, and he hits the ground. And all in one motion, I'm kind of coming to my feet, standing up, and almost one-handed, I'm pointing this gun. Bow! I shoot him again. The deer's still moving. There's 2 more bucks. They were right in a line, right in a row. When one of those deer come by me, it was so close. Now, I've always told this story this way. I hope you can see this in your mind. I could see the teeth on that deer. His mouth were open. That's how close this deer was when he come by me.
Wow.
I could see the whites in his eyes and his teeth showing because his mouth was open. And this other deer's flopping around like a dying fish.
Crappie flop.
Yeah, crappie flopping, and bam, I shoot again, and turkeys are, they're flying out of the trees. They're flying over the top of us, flying every direction, cackling. It sounds like the world is coming to an end. And just that quickly, it's graveyard silent. There ain't nothing moving. That deer's dead. There ain't a turkey flying off or making a peep. And I'm, all you can hear is my heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm still holding my gun up on my shoulder. And I turn around and look at Mr. Camp. And in my mind, I don't know what I was expecting. I guess I thought he was going to be stood up too with his gun. He's still sitting against that tree, legs crossed, and his gun just laying flat across his lap. He ain't moved. And he's kind of just got his head cocked, looking at me under the bill of his hat. And again, to this day, I mentioned a while ago how mild-mannered he was. I'd never heard him say a cuss word till this morning. And he said, "Well, damn. I guess this turkey hunt's over." You reckon? So, and all morning he was just salty that I had run them turkeys off.
You've ruined his turkey hunt with a deer hunt.
Well, damn.
Look, I have never heard a negative word about him. And actually, have seen so many of his calls in the last couple of years that it's crazy. I know his wife cleaned out, his workshop, and sold a bunch of those calls to Richard Patty over at Shotgun Sports. So if you're in this area, there are still some Doug Camp calls out there.
I saw some of them are signed. They're autographed.
Yeah, most of them are signed. These are the 2005 calls, and they're all box calls. That's all that's left is box calls. But he signed most of them, and they're for the 2005 season, and then he got sick, and she brought a lot of them that were unfinished. There are still some left. If you're interested in a Doug Camp call, it's a great collector's item. It's a great item to get if you want to give to an up-and-coming young turkey hunter, or buy one for your dad. Because I guarantee you, if you're from this area, you know who Doug Camp is, and they'll cherish a Doug Camp call. You can still even get one. But Jeff, I appreciate that story, man. When we talked about Doug a couple of weeks ago, I knew I wanted to get you on so we could, talk about him a little bit, because, not too many people have those memories anymore with Doug, and that's just so cool to hear. So I appreciate that. But since we got Rusty Burroughs in the building with us, let's talk a little fishing. Most people that are from Calhoun County know who Coach Rusty Burroughs is. Rusty started his career at White Plains, correct?
76
at White Plains. Then you went to Anniston High with Johnny Ingram.
79.
And there you and I met there.
Correct.
'Cause I was at Anniston High. And then you went on to bigger and better things as the head coach at Jacksonville High School.
In 86.
And how long were you there?
I was there 18 years. I taught in 4 decades. I taught in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I retired in 2003.
You've been retired a long time.
20 years, 21 now.
Man, he don't look 80 years old, does he?
No, he does not look. I think he turned 81 a couple of weeks ago.
Look, my birthday was April 14th. It was on a Friday, and one of my former players passed away, and I went to his funeral. And his older sister, came up and says, "Coach, you look the same you did in the 70s when you taught me in high school." She said, "Do you mind telling me how old you are?" I said, "Well, a matter of fact, my birthday's Friday. I'll be 69. She said, "Oh, my God." Well, that made me feel bad. She just said I look good, and then she said, "Oh, my God."
Well, she thought you were 79.
Yeah, but I keep my age pretty good, and I credit that to staying active. I still travel and play big-time softball, and a lot of times if I'm playing 65 and over, now I can play 70 because I just turned 69, and you can play up 1 year. They'll ask me for my SPA. That's the Senior Players Association card, and it's like a birth certificate. And, because I can still run at 69, and most 69 and 70s can't, a lot of them will say, "Hey, I need the card number 5. That's my number." And, I'll have to go billfold and show my card and show that I am
59 and I can't run.
Yeah. Well, I credit that to, I still call every sport referee, and that's how I stay connected with coaches, former coaches I knew, and their kids who are now coaching, and the game and the teams around. We have such good athletics in the Calhoun County, Cleburne, Randolph County, Clay County, Cherokee County, Etowah County area. This area is so strong in every sport, and I've done it so long. Last year was my 40th year to call basketball. This year will be 41. Somebody said, "How long are you going to do it?" And I said, "As long as I can." I mean, I still enjoy it. And basketball to me is a little easier. You don't have to run as far, but you have to start and stop. But it's a 3-man crew now. It used to be a 2-man crew, but it's 3-man. It's not as hard, but I think I stay in good shape simply because I never slow down. I continue to go from one sport to the next sport, and I've done it so long I get to go to the best games. And, sometimes, I'm in charge of the game, and like a white hat in football or the referee in basketball or behind the plate umpire in baseball, and sometimes I'm just a helper. I know, I went to Madison Academy 2 years ago, and they have a jumbotron in their end zone bigger than Alabama and Auburn's. and it's just immaculate. And a play had run, I'd look up and watch the replay, and see if we got it right. But I still enjoy officiating. I enjoy the kids, the coaches, the schools, the fans. It's a new game now. All the games are different. Football's different. Used to be it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Now they spread you all the way across the field, and they play in space. They get the ball to their fast guy and let him outrun your fast guy. And that's the way that is. Basketball is up and down, and I look for Alabama, if not this coming year, the next year, to have a shot clock, meaning you got to shoot it within 25 seconds or it's a turnover. I mean, they want the game to be fast. In baseball, look at what Major League's doing. It's not in high school yet, but they got pitch counts, they got clocks, they got times. Batters have 30 seconds to get in the box, so they're trying to speed everything up. So the speed of all games has really gone up.
In your opinion, is that a good or a bad thing?
Well, it sells tickets, and money makes everything go around. And people don't like baseball because it takes too long in the past. Sometimes you get a fast runner on first, and the pitcher would throw over, and not get him out. And now you can't do that. You only get 2 shots. And so they've put in new rules in Major League to try to speed the game up. And I think that will help, especially the younger people. They live in a faster society, and we do.
You got
Just
that
like
right.
Jeff was talking about, Mr. Kemp sitting there being mild-mannered and slow and doing that. People today in a hurry. I mean, you carry a young person fishing today, and if you don't get a bite in a few minutes, they're ready to go home or start playing with something in the boat. They're not like we were brought up.
Right.
They have not been brought up that way.
I am that young person, I think.
Yeah. But everything, fishing in the last 10 years has changed more than it did in the previous 40. I mean, forward-facing sonar.
And that crap's amazing.
Oh, my goodness.
Those hummingbirds, holy crap.
Oh, my goodness. Spot lock depth finders, power poles. I mean, these are things that makes our job as a competitive fisherman easier, but it costs a lot. But, if you're going to compete on the highest level, you either have to compete or get out of the way, because these young people that are so strong technologically, they'll beat you if you're not keeping up with them.
Sure. How long have you been tournament fishing?
Well, started in late 70s with Anniston Bassmasters, and I've done it ever since. Even when I coached and taught school, I didn't get to fish in the peak seasons, the fall and the spring, the spawning time, because that was my football season and my baseball season. So I fished hot summer and cold winter. And I'm still real competitive in the winter and the summer because, I fish more or less from memory. I have good electronics on my boat, but I don't have Jeff Daniels electronics. His is top of the line, state of the art. Mine's a little bit older. But I fish from memory, and I beat myself a lot of times because in 1986 I caught a big one over there by that big oak tree, and I still think in 2023 there'll be a big one over there by that oak tree. And sometimes that gets me beat, but other times I have enough places. I fish a 60 and over trail on Wednesdays. Matter of fact, tomorrow we're at Poorhouse at Logan Martin.
And please win that. I'd like a biscuit on
Well,
Thursday.
yeah, this year I've fished 4 and I've won 2 and finished second twice. But second is just thanks for coming. It's a winner take all in the 60 and over. But I know enough places that even on a bad day, I have a chance to win because it's a 3 fish limit on that. I can fish enough places where fish live and fish spawn and fish go right after they spawn. And that's the situation we're in right now. Most of the spotted bass have already spawned, but they don't spawn at the same time. Spawn where we live lasts from late February on into May.
Right.
You have some that spawn early and now will bite, and you have some that have not yet spawned. And I really think, now I'm a firm believer, you got some that'll spawn late February and spawn again in May. Mm-hmm. I think you got some that'll double spawn like that. And it's all about water temperature. And some of them, and I believe this to be true, especially the lakes that they draw down in the winter, some of them won't spawn till that water comes up.
Right.
They'll just hold those eggs, and then when the water comes up, you'll see, oh, there's one on bed, and it's May 15th.
You talked about Wedowee a while ago. I think that's really the case at Wedowee.
I do too, and the water's coming up as we speak. They've just started bringing that water up. There's stuff floating everywhere. But, I have a big tournament next weekend. It's the Alabama Bass Federation State Championship. It's Friday and Saturday, the 5th and 6th. I'm going to be there the 3rd fishing our 60 and over tournament. So that's an official practice day for me for our state. But I'm just going to fish a tournament and use that as a practice day.
So, and what lake's that on?
Lake.
Lake.
We'll be out of beeswax. And they built some brand new cabins at Beeswax that are nice, and we've got a cabin rented. Jamie Hardy and I do. So we're going down late Tuesday and stay through Saturday, and we're going to fish Lake. And I don't know the conditions right now. I don't know, how much rain. They say we might get rain tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. If we do, that means they're going to run more water. It means it's going to color it up. Some people can't see the spawning fish. I actually don't look. I don't have young people eyes anymore. I don't see them as well. So I just fish where I think they are, where they should be. A hard bottom, a gravel bottom, that's where they're going to spawn.
Right.
And it lakes with grass, lily pads. Lily pads grow on a hard bottom. There'll be some fish around if you find any of that. But I prefer to spot fish because spots, and Jeff will agree with me on this, they're way more aggressive for spawning areas. They're way more aggressive than largemouth for food. In the largemouth, when they spawn, they'll go into a lethargic period for a couple of weeks where they just try to rest up after they spawn. They'll then guard their fry. You can catch them. If you see a little haze of little bitty, very small fry, the big mama's going to be somewhere around, and you can throw in there. A lot of times she'll bite it, not to eat it, but bite it to kill it or get it away from her babies. But I don't really go and try to find sight fish to catch, but I fish where I think and where I know they've spawned in the past, and that's what I try to do. But I'm going to try to spot fish, and I hope there'll be a topwater bite. There hasn't been one most of April, but usually May around our area is the best topwater month,
right,
because the majority of the largemouth and spotted bass have spawned, and they're getting aggressive. They want to feed back up from losing that weight and losing that strength of the spawn, and they'll hit topwater. They'll be aggressive. So I hope there'll be a topwater bite, and if there is, then I can compete, because I know the flats with the stumps where they'll push herd shad up on those places and hit topwater. But if they don't hit topwater, I know where they go right after they spawn. They go out from the shallow to the next drop, and I know several areas that I can take a tube, especially if they run water, a Cinco type bait, a stick type bait, or a shaky head, and I can catch those spots. You got to weed through a lot of 1.5 pounds to get that 2.5, but I can do that. Now, somebody will go shallow at lay, and somebody will get in the grass and swim a jig or throw a frog and catch a 6-pound largemouth. But he's not going to catch 3 or 4 6-pound largemouth. He's going to catch one.
Right.
But if I catch 5 3-pound spots, he's going to have something
day
to go with that 6-pounder.
Yeah, that's
now,
a good day.
Ideally, I'll know after Wednesday and half a day Thursday what I'm going to target. Am I going to get 5, then go try to find a big one, or get a big one, then go get 5? I'm confident enough that I can get 5 anytime for our state tournament. So I would prefer to go shallow and try to get a largemouth swimming a jig, or you can do so many things to catch a big largemouth. Throw a buzzbait. May's a great buzzbait month. Throw a swim jig. Throw a swim bait. A spinner bait. A friend of ours won a little 12-boat tournament at Lay last week. Didn't have but 4. He had 13 pounds, but he caught them all on spinner bait on the outside of the grass. So I'm going to go down, and the way I'm going to break the lake down in my practice, we putting in at beeswax, and down the lake has a lot of grass, but it's more rocky than up the lake. Up the lake is more rock and wood, and it's more of a river. Down the lake's more of a backwater. So I'm going down on Wednesday and spot fish. Then Thursday I'm going up and see if the topwater fish are on my places and see if I can catch some largemouth. But It'll be a mixed bag, I think. Now, somebody may go all the way to Paint Creek or Waxahachie, where the water's a little clearer in the back, and might find 2 or 3 late spawners that's on bed and catch a big 1 or 2. But I think I can catch 10 or 12 pounds of spots pretty easy. But if I get that kicker to go with it, if I could get a 4-pounder or a 5-pound largemouth out of the grass, just one, well, then that's going to put me 14, 15 pounds, and in 2 days, 30 pounds to win that tournament.
Oh, shoot, yeah.
And that's what I'm going to try to do.
Rusty talking about the spots being aggressive. We always joke. I say spots wake up every day and choose violence.
Yes, they
Every
do.
day.
Yeah, right behind you there is a 7-pound, 10-ounce smallmouth. And so everybody who sees that wants to know, man, how hard did that thing fight? And I said, well, as hard as you think a 7.5-pound smallmouth would fight. But I can tell you a 3 or 4-pound spot would have eat that fish. A 3-pound spot would have made that fish get out up on the bank.
And a Coosa River spot is way more aggressive and bigger and stronger. Yeah. And if you catch one in current, I mean, you got your handful with a 3-pound spot.
Yes, sir. Now, I know we talked about lay, and we've never, most of our fishing talk on the show has been about Neely Henry and Weiss.
Right.
A little bit of Gunnersville. But I want Jeff's been on Wedowee. Have you been on Wedowee lately?
Not lately. I've been a couple times this year. I helped a good friend of mine from Scottsboro prepare for the ABT down there. Water was way down, and we caught a few fish. But
and I know you went just the other day, right?
I've been 4 or 5 times in the last 10 days.
So kind of fill us in on how's the fishing going down there? Where's the water level at?
If you'd like to catch some fish, I would go somewhere else.
Well, do not go down there unless it's bright daylight, because they're bringing the water up and there's floaters everywhere.
60-foot long logs floating everywhere. Yeah.
Because of the draw up, because the water coming up.
It's nasty.
I don't know where they come from. Every year they drop the water down, but then when they raise it up, all this stuff's floating. I mean, how does all those blow down trees get on the bank? I don't know. But it's the Big River from Foster's down to Mad Indian Creek is a minefield. It's dangerous running.
Look, both of y'all know this. If we have a lot of rain, and then they start pulling that water hard over at Neely Henry, it's like a minefield.
Yeah.
Before you get to Minnesota Bend in that area, there's some monster logs. And you see them going down through there 70, 80 miles an hour, and I'm thinking,
along with refrigerators and coolers and boats and everything else.
Somebody's flip-flop.
If that water ever rides basketballs, it'll just float right
yes,
on
sir.
down there.
Yeah.
Wedowee, if you're not familiar with it, is a highland reservoir, very steep, deep, usually gin clear. It's not right now. It's colored up really nice, which you actually want at Wedowee. It's really good this time of year if you can get some color in that water. Fish are just so much more shallow and aggressive. If you are into the forward-facing sonar, Wedowee is your jam. It really is, especially all the cold months of the year. Starting in the fall, go through the bitter cold winter. Speaking of that, I've said this to you before, Wedowee is the weirdest lake I know. It is the opposite of everything you think. Down there, you want it to be 14 degrees and 30-mile-an-hour winds in January, and those fish are in 6 inches of water. The colder, worse the conditions it is down there, the shallower those fish are. Total opposite on most of our shallow river-run lakes around here.
Right.
In all jokes, though, I mentioned a while ago, if you want to catch some fish, go somewhere else. It's a tough time down there right now. We fished Saturday. 48 boat ramp is the main launch at that lake. It's the big ramp at the center of the lake. It's where most of your bigger tournaments are held. They had 3 tournaments there Saturday, probably 100 boats, maybe more, combined with all 3 of them. It did take 18 to win the bigger one, which, again, 18 is a fine weight, but this is a lake this time of year that has taken routinely 30 pounds to win.
I had 24 one day and walked up with my chest poked out, and I didn't even get a thanks for coming.
I know some guys, Rusty knows them too, brought in 32-something with an 11-pounder one time. Almost lost the tournament and big fish.
What?
But
I lost big fish with a 9-pounder one time.
On Wedowee.
Yes, sir. I had a 9.2 and somebody had a 9.14 or something.
Good.
I mean, I knew I caught that thing second cast that morning, And all day I said, I got big fish. No, I didn't either. With a 9-pounder.
But it's
Well, that's heartbreaking.
It took 13 pounds to win the other tournament, and then 12 to win the smaller one of them. We probably had about that 12 or 13 pound weight ourselves, but honestly, we caught about 10 or 12 fish the whole day. Just got lucky, and 3 or 4 of them were good size. It's kind of tough right now. It's that weird thing.
Yep.
So, you'll catch a largemouth. So they have a slot limit on largemouth, 13 to 16. And as you might expect, a ton of the fish you're catching right now are 15.5-inch largemouth.
But you're weigh 2.5 pounds.
Yeah, and you have to throw that fish back.
What?
Yes, you got to throw it back.
God.
Yeah, because we probably did have 3 or 4 fish Saturday that were 2+ pounds. We had to throw them back.
That's just putting that in the live well.
But
Any other lake,
I'd be happy to have it.
You're catching fish right now that are wafer thin and their tail's already healing up. I mean, that fish has been spawned out 6 weeks ago. You're catching some that look like they have a Nerf football in them, and they're just pale. They've just come up. They're all over. I have just found it very difficult. You're thinking, boy, it is beautiful. It's late April. I'm just going to go power fish in a pocket. Wrong. You can fish miles of that stuff and never get a bite. But pull back out there in the middle of it with that forward-facing sonar, and look at here.
There they
Man, there's some fish swimming around. Now, most of them are going to be 1 to 2 pound spots, and I'm just crazy enough, I'll catch them all day long and throw a tournament. That's fun to me. But it's tough right now. We've got a big tournament there, our club. We'll have about 50 boats in it Saturday, and I'm betting 13 or 14 pounds will win our tournament. Wow. Somebody might get lucky and just bring in a big fish that gives them upper teens.
Right.
But if nobody has a, say bigger than 5 pound fish, 13 or 14 pounds will win that tournament. And I'm going to bet you half our boats will zero. It's tough right now. Wow. I don't know. The water is still expected to be about a foot low. It's come up probably 4 foot in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
And it's still expected to not be completely full pool Saturday. And I don't know where the fish are. They're not deep, they're not shallow. They're not in the pockets, they're not on the main river. I don't know. They're just somewhere that I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, that makes it a more competitive tournament because usually, and Jeff knows because we fish against each other all the time in big tournaments, you can pull up to a tournament and I can pick out 5 that are that competitive. You got to beat those 5. But this time of year at Lake Harris, where he's going, Wedowee, you can't pick that 5 because somebody will go shallow and throw a Cinco in the middle of a pocket and catch a 6.5 pounder, and not have a clue that 6.5 pounder's there. But you're subject to catching it. And that lake, anytime you back your boat off the trailer, you're subject to catching a 6 pounder. You're subject to catching a double-digit fish. Mm-hmm. No other lake you can say that. You can't say, I'm going to Neely here, I'm going to catch 10, but wrong. Logie Martin, wrong. Weiss, maybe.
Really, even Gunnersville?
No. Gunnersville, maybe. But Wedowee, you might catch a 10-pounder. And somebody in his tournament, be it the best fisherman there or the least fisherman there, could catch it. Because you might just pull in the right pocket and make the right cast, and there he is.
This same tournament last year, we had Ronnie had a nearly 10-pounder, 980 something, I think it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that fish committed suicide for Ronnie to catch it.
We need to get Ronnie on this podcast one day.
No, you'd have to rate it a different rating if he was on.
Well, there when you download these into Spotify or other places, it does say, "Can children?" Yes, that's it. Does this contain explicit material? And I have to check yes every time.
I understand.
I have to check yes. But guys, thank you so much for taking the time out to be on today, and let's do this again.
Sure, enjoyed it.
I'm game. I might be late, but I'm ready to go.
Well, let's say we're going to start at 9.
Yeah,
but we won't start till 9:30.
Yeah, and then I'll be on
then
time.
he'll be here.
That's right.
But thank you guys so much for being here, and Jeff, thanks for your stories for us on Doug. I mean, that's that's just an era gone by that we'll never get back. What a wonderful guy he was, and we'll see y'all next time.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it.
You know, anytime you're in the same room with Jeff Daniels, it's an honor. So just glad
Well,
to be here.
just happy to be that close to money.
Absolutely. A lot of it's mine.
Oh, y'all are fools.
But look, and next time we talk, Jeff, I would like to talk about your expertise on the importance of insuring your stuff, your outdoor stuff, your boat, your 4-wheelers, your trailers. I
know,
mean,
'cause mine got stole.
That's a good idea.
but
Let's do that.
before we go, why don't you throw your number out there? If anybody listening does need some good insurance, Rusty has his insurance in Alpha. I have my insurance with Alpha. Both of us are with Jeff. I don't have any complaints.
None.
And that's really because of Megan out there in the office. She's wonderful.
These ladies are great.
They really are. Throw your phone number out there, and if anybody interested in, at least get a rate. That you never know.
If you're listening anywhere in Alabama, you do not have to be here local. Honestly, we do. The majority of business done today is done digitally. DocuSigning and on phone apps and things like that. But I am only licensed in the state of Alabama. But from all 4 corners, I am licensed in Alabama. Our office number is 256-237-4810. Again, no obligation. Call and let's talk about your stuff. Get a quote. If I'm not better than what you've got, hey, it didn't cost a penny to find out. But I believe we can be.
Right. Well, good. Well, guys, thanks, and we'll do this again and catch up on some more fishing.
Yeah. Good luck to Jeff this weekend. I hope he beats those guys.
Me too.
Thanks, guys, for listening in. Once again, like or follow wherever you're listening to the show. If you got a question for Jeff or for Rusty or for my other co-host Lee Pitts, you can hit us up at BamaBackroadsOutdoors@gmail.com. Any question, we'll get back with you or we'll answer it on the show. And thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you next time.